afternoon. My name is Afobako Mboweni, running for the SRC portfolio Vice President in the upcoming SRC elections. The Vice President position is one that is vital in the Student Representative Council. The Vice President is responsible for the internal relations and the intricacies of the SRC. The Vice President is responsible for making the SRC coherent and fluid. Noting those responsibilities, I have separated my manifesto into 3 points. These are discipline, student parliament, and policy. In discipline, I'll focus on establishing a leadership code of conduct that will help leaders understand what needs to be done and how it has to be done. In student parliament, I will establish subcommittees to deliberate on issues that are presented through policies at the University of the Free State. And in policy, I'll focus on making academic and financial support systems better for academic exclusion and financial exclusion.
Greetings viewers of Kovsie TV. My name is Jerry, running for the position of the Secretary for the 2019-2020 SRC. Mine is clear, comrades. You know that the nature of my office is that it's generic and it encapsulates all the other offices of the SRC. Therefore, I'll just speak on a few things internally just taken and derived from the manifesto of the UFS Student Command of this campus, right? So the point of departure is simply that what we're going to do, what we're going to initialize, because struggle of workers as well include the struggle of students as well. We're going to move with the immediate insourcing of workers. That is the primary thing, of course, because it is entailed in our policies. As we exist, we can't exist without workers. Now, going down towards students, things that we plan to do for students is that we plan to ensure that off-campus students, since they constitute the majority of the students that are in our university, get to be really accommodated in everything else that is there. So primarily Wi-Fi facilities, protection services extended to them and so forth. No, thank you very much.
True leadership is servanthood. Put the interest of the people in the center of your decision making. These are the words of Dave Ramsey, the words that will guide the Office of Treasury, and this is the philosophy that this office will live by, and it will serve as a reminder as why it exists and who it exists for. I am Zandile Makalima, and I am running for Office of Treasurer for the SRC.
Greetings, viewers of Kovsie TV. John Dylan Peterson here, SRC Treasurer candidate for the University of the Free State 2019-2020 elections. First and foremost, I'd like to wish the best to my fellow candidates for this up-and-coming debate. But ultimately, life at the University of the Free State is riddled with expenses, and you need a high ethical standards, which is a non-negotiable for finances. And for the rest of the debate, I'll go about my plans for ethical standards.
Akhovakwe, we're going to start with you. You've mentioned 3 components of your manifesto being discipline, policy, and student parliament. How can you ensure that these 3, which are very broad aspects, can be successfully handled by just yourself?
As the Vice President of the SRC, you chair 5 portfolios, and with these departments, it incorporates the 3 portfolios in which I discussed, which are policy, student parliament, and discipline. So in my chairing, I'll make sure that my time is distributed adequately and effectively for these portfolios.
And as a follow-up question, we have seen that student parliament hasn't been very functional in the past. What are you going to do during your term to ensure that student parliament is functional?
As I said in presenting my manifesto, that I'll establish subcommittees that will deliberate policies of the university, because there tends to be a lack of quorum when student parliament has to sit down. But if the members of parliament are set out in micro decision making positions and come to student parliament, it will make it much more effective and efficient.
Zandile, I want to move over to your side. Are you aware of the various financial policies that the Treasurer has to uphold in office? And what do you think can be done to make the way SRC spend money more effective?
In my manifesto, my main focus in my manifesto is students with historical debt. In our organizational manifesto, we speak on excess, right? And so we can't necessarily give students excess if we can't give them the bare minimum of actually getting into an institution. So eradicating, or rather tackling that aspect of historical debt will then speak to that aspect.
In follow-up on this issue of historical debt, the strategy of the SRC has mostly been fundraising through various fundraising initiatives. Is that still going to be the strategy if you were to be elected as treasurer?
Definitely, it goes without saying. I think the most important thing when it comes to fundraising is not necessarily the initiatives themselves, but the timing in which we implement these initiatives. I mean, I wouldn't wait until next year, January, for me to actually come up with fundraising initiatives, because that is the time where we need those funds to actually assist the students. So if I get into office now, the first 3 months will actually be vital in those implementation of this fundraising.
Okay, John Dylan, I'd like to move over to you. You mentioned in your opening statement that we need ethical leadership and standards. Do you think that the SRC has currently been spending money in an unwise manner? What can you do to improve that?
Well, I'll definitely attest to, let's say, unthought through expenses from not only this SRC but previous SRCs that date back my research. One thing is for certain, when SRC step into office, they've got no clue what the financial impact it is to run an office successfully. So therefore budgets get drawn out of proportion, people haphazardly just book and make bookings or buy things. So it is of concern to me, hence I'm standing for treasurer. What I will be doing differently is placing emphasis on the recent, or the soon strategic planning that will take place post the election, upon successfully being elected, to ensure that, well, my experience in the office of working with finances will be of such a nature to afford the rest of the candidates who come into office the ability to have some sound understanding of what it takes to plan and use your effective budget to the betterment of not only your office but for students as well.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question because your fellow candidate has spoken about historical debt. What approach would you take to address this issue?
First and foremost, obviously, I'll have to look back. Having served currently, I know that we've frozen all historical debt at this moment, but we are dealing it on a case-by-case basis because the cohort of students that have historical debt are relatively phasing out of the institution. So first 30 days into office, I'll have to establish with the finance office what are the numbers of students that have historical debt and what are the mechanisms that we can, as the SRC, then use to either preserve their academic lifespan with minimum impact on their future life for their historical debt.
Okay, Jerry, I'd like to go over to you again. You mentioned that your entire portfolio is more generic, but there are some specific issues you want to deal with, being the insourcing of workers and the accommodation of commuter students. How can you ensure during your term that these two large issues are adequately dealt with?
One of the things that assist, particularly in the space that we exist in here in this institution, is the understanding of policies and all those documents that leads to the running of the institution. So with the insourcing of workers, would immediately look on the financial status of the university entirely, which must be then made transparent to the student populace, not necessarily the student populace, but the student leaders, so that we are aware that if the university is in a state where it cannot really insource workers or not, and then if we found that really they are incapable of doing so, what can be measured in place to ensure that workers are insourced. And we want to move as well with, because of the capacity on campus of residencies is very small, the university should move with initiatives of, getting to get funds, that construction of other residencies come immediately, so that we see construction on a continued basis to accommodate even off-campus students. But as well, there should be an existing committee on campus that deals particularly with students that are residing off-campus, so that they are helped when they need help.
And a follow-up, Jerry, you'll be the secretary of the SRC. What can you do to ensure that a lot of the SRC's activities, such as what they've done during their term, is adequately communicated to students?
Yeah, no, that is just administrative. All that just need to be done is, to create a platform of publication, like, for example, the already existing ones, right? You use those platforms to ensure that there is sufficient access to information within the office of the Student Representative Council, that they are not necessarily published only there, but there's efforts to make sure that consciousness is raised among the student populace to visit those platforms, that information gets to be accessed.
Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for the lives of others? Martin King Jr. Ultimately, I implore each and every University of the Free student to come to the ballots and vote and put someone who you can entrust to stay accountable to you into office. John Dylan Peterson for Treasurer. Thank you.
With all the points in my manifesto being high ethical conduct, transparency, and early identification of financial needs, I am not selling the students anything new. I am not selling them dreams. I am just promising them implementation. Thank you.
No, yeah, having spoken to a few things, what I'd like to say in conclusion is that let's vote for a capacitated SRC. Let's vote for an SRC that will do everything in their power to ensure that students meet our interests. So basically just go for an SRC that will give you a pro-student kind of governance, that in everything that they do, students are put first and interest of students are always handled in a proper and a radical manner with needs be, so that students at all times are in a proper state to ensure that the academics go well. Vote for EFFSC. Thank you very much.
Okay. In conclusion, I'd like to say let us build an SRC that accounts, an SRC that is responsible, an SRC that understands that to serve is not to dictate, but it is rather to serve with humility, with honor and dignity.